The park was alive with laughter, but in one brutal instant, it turned into a battleground. Amara Jenkins, 16, stood frozen as a woman's shrill voice sliced through the air, accusing her of something she hadn't done. Her heart pounded. She was just a girl tossing a frisbee, yet here she was, pinned by a stranger's venomous glare. It was a perfect Saturday in Riverside Park, the kind of day where kids shrieked with joy, couples strolled hand in hand, and the scent of grilled hot dogs wafted from food carts. Amara had come with her best friends, Jamal and Sophie, to escape the weight of the world for a few hours. She wore her favorite yellow hoodie, her braided hair swinging as she leaped to catch the frisbee Jamal tossed. Sophie, sprawled on a picnic blanket, cheered her on, her sketchbook open to a half-finished drawing of the park's oak trees. For Amara, these moments were freedom, rare, precious, and untarnished by the judgment she often felt as a black girl in a city that didn't always feel like home. Then came Karen. Mid-40s, blonde bob, designer sunglasses perched on her nose, she stormed across the grass like a woman on a mission. Her dog, a yappy terrier, tugged at its leash, but Karen's focus was laser-sharp on Amara. "You," she shouted, her voice carrying over the park's hum. "You're disturbing everyone. I saw you stealing from that cart." Heads turned. The accusation hit like a slap, and Amara's frisbee dropped to the ground. "I didn't steal anything," Amara said, her voice steady but her hands trembling. She glanced at the food cart, where the vendor, an older Latino man, looked confused but stayed silent. Jamal stepped forward, his lanky frame tense. "She was with us the whole time, lady. You got the wrong person." Karen's eyes narrowed, undeterred. "Don't lie to me. I know what I saw." She pulled out her phone, her fingers jabbing at the screen. "I'm calling the police. People like you don't belong here causing trouble." The words, "people like you," hung in the air, heavy with unspoken meaning. Amara's stomach churned. She'd heard that tone before, the one that reduced her to a stereotype, a threat, a problem. Sophie jumped up, her sketchbook falling to the grass. "Are you serious? She's just playing frisbee. You can't do this." Her voice cracked, but Karen ignored her, already speaking into the phone. "Yes, officer, there's a teenager causing a disturbance in Riverside Park. She's aggressive, possibly dangerous. Black, about 16, yellow hoodie." Amara's breath caught. Dangerous? The word was a knife, twisting deeper with every syllable. She wanted to scream, to run, but her feet felt glued to the ground. A small crowd had gathered now, some whispering, others pulling out phones to record. One woman, an older white lady with a walker, shook her head and muttered, "This is ridiculous." But no one stepped in. Not yet. Jamal's voice rose, sharp and furious. "You're lying to the cops. You didn't see anything." He took a step toward Karen, who flinched dramatically, clutching her dog like a shield. "Stay back," she shrieked. "See? This is what I'm talking about." "Jamal, don't," Amara whispered, grabbing his arm. She could feel the eyes on her, the weight of every stare. She wasn't just Amara anymore, she was the black girl in the yellow hoodie, the one who must have done something wrong. Her mind raced. She thought of her mom's warnings, "Keep your head down, don't argue, don't give them a reason." But what reason had she given? She'd just been playing frisbee. Sophie, red-faced and trembling, turned to the crowd. "Someone say something. This isn't right." A few people shifted uncomfortably, but most stayed silent, their faces a mix of curiosity and unease. The vendor finally spoke up, his voice hesitant. "I didn't see her take anything. She's been over there with her friends." Karen whirled on him. "Stay out of this. I know what I saw." Her voice was shrill now, almost unhinged, but her confidence was unshaken. To her, Amara was guilty, and no one was going to tell her otherwise. Amara's heart hammered as she heard sirens in the distance. Her mind flashed to stories she'd heard black kids her age, or younger, caught in situations like this, their lives upended by a single call. She thought of her dad, Mayor Marcus Jenkins, who'd fought for years to make this city fairer, safer. He didn't even know she was here, facing this. No one did. She was alone, exposed, and the world was watching. The sirens grew louder, and 2 police officers appeared, weaving through the crowd. One was a young white man, Officer Daniels, his hand resting lightly on his holster. The other, Officer Carter, was older, black, with a calm but wary expression. Karen rushed toward them, her voice dripping with urgency. "Thank God you're here. This girl was stealing, and her friend threatened me." "That's not true," Sophie shouted, stepping in front of Amara. "She's lying. Check the cameras or ask the vendor." The vendor nodded, stepping closer. "She didn't take anything. I've been watching." Officer Carter's eyes flicked to Amara, then to Karen, then back to the crowd. "All right, let's everyone calm down," he said, his voice steady but firm. "Miss, can you tell me what happened?" He looked at Amara, who swallowed hard, trying to keep her voice from shaking. "I was just playing frisbee with my friends," she said. "I didn't do anything wrong. She just started yelling at me." Her eyes burned, but she refused to cry. "Not here, not now." Karen cut in, her voice rising. "She's lying. I saw her take food from the cart and run off." And her friend was aggressive. Look at him. She pointed at Jamal, who clenched his jaw, his fists tight at his sides. Officer Daniels frowned, glancing at Jamal. "Son, step back. Let's keep this civil." His tone was clipped, and Amara's stomach sank. She could see the way his eyes lingered on Jamal, the way his hand stayed near his holster. She'd seen that look before, in videos, in stories, in moments that haunted her. Officer Carter, though, seemed to sense the tension. "Ma'am," he said to Karen, "can you describe exactly what you saw? And you," he turned to the vendor, "can you confirm what happened?" The vendor repeated his account, his voice firmer now. "She didn't take anything. She's been with her friends the whole time. I'd know if something was stolen." Karen's face reddened. "You're all covering for her. This is unbelievable." She turned to the crowd, as if expecting support. A few people murmured, but most looked uncomfortable, their phones still raised. One man, a jogger in his 30s, stepped forward. "I was here," he said. "The girl didn't do anything. This lady just started yelling." The tide was shifting, but Amara didn't feel safe yet. The sirens, the crowd, the accusations, they were all too much. She thought of her dad again, how he'd told her to be proud, to stand tall. But standing tall felt impossible when the world was trying to push her down. Officer Carter pulled Karen aside, speaking in a low voice, while Daniels kept an eye on Amara and her friends. The crowd was growing restless, some calling out, "Let her go." Others whispered, "Is that the mayor's daughter?" Amara's heart skipped. She hadn't wanted that card played, not yet. She wanted to be seen for herself, not her last name. But the whispers spread, and Karen's expression faltered as she overheard. "What did you say?" Karen demanded, turning to a woman in the crowd. "Who is she?" The woman, holding a toddler, shrugged. "That's Amara Jenkins. You know, the mayor's kid." The words hit Karen like a punch, and for the first time, doubt flickered across her face. But she doubled down, her voice shaking. "That doesn't change what she did. She's still a thief." Amara's resolve hardened. She stepped forward, her voice clear despite the tremor in her chest. "I'm not a thief. I'm just a kid trying to enjoy my day. You don't know me, but you decided who I was the second you saw me." The crowd fell silent, her words cutting through the noise. Even Officer Daniels looked taken aback. Officer Carter turned to Karen, his expression unreadable. Ma'am, we're going to need you to come with us to clarify this. We'll check the cart's camera footage. He glanced at Amara. You and your friends, stay here for a moment. We'll sort this out. As Karen was led away, still protesting, Amara felt a mix of relief and rage. The crowd began to disperse, some offering her sympathetic looks, others avoiding her gaze. Jamal put a hand on her shoulder, his voice low. You okay? No, she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. But I will be. Sophie hugged her tightly, tears in her eyes. The park, once a place of joy, felt different now, tainted, but not broken. Amara knew this wasn't the end. Not for her, and not for the truth. As the officers led Karen toward their patrol car, her protests grew shrill, echoing across Riverside Park. Amara stood rooted, her yellow hoodie now feeling like a spotlight. The crowd's murmurs buzzed around her, some supportive, others skeptical, all heavy with judgment. Jamal's hand stayed on her shoulder, grounding her, while Sophie clutched her arm, whispering, "You were so brave." But bravery felt hollow when Amara's chest ached with the sting of being seen as less than human. Officer Carter returned after a few minutes, his face calm but serious. "We're checking the cart's security footage," he said to Amara. "The vendor's cooperating, and we've got a witness who saw the whole thing. You're not in trouble, but I need you to stick around until we clear this up." His tone was gentle, but Amara caught the flicker of exhaustion in his eyes. She wondered how many times he'd seen a false accusation, a kid like her caught in the crosshairs. Amara nodded, her throat tight. "Okay." She glanced at Karen, now arguing with Officer Daniels near the patrol car. Karen's dog yapped frantically, mirroring her owner's agitation. The crowd hadn't fully dispersed, some lingered, phones still out, capturing every moment. Amara hated if their curiosity felt like a violation, turning her pain into a spectacle. Sophie, still fuming, pulled out her own phone. "I'm posting this," she said, her fingers flying across the screen. "People need to see what happened. This isn't okay." Amara hesitated, then nodded. She didn't love the idea of her face plastered online, but silence wasn't an option either. Not anymore. Jamal leaned in, his voice low. "You sure about this, Amara? Once it's out there, it's out there." His eyes held a weight she knew he'd faced his own share of profiling, moments he didn't talk about but carried in his tense shoulders. "I know," Amara said. "But if we don't speak up, people like her keep winning." Her voice wavered, but her resolve didn't. She thought of her dad, Mayor Marcus Jenkins, who'd spent years fighting for justice in a city that resisted change. He'd taught her to stand up, to speak truth, even when it hurt. She just hadn't expected it to hurt this much. Minutes later, Officer Carter returned with the vendor, whose name tag read Carlos. He looked uneasy but resolute. "The footage shows everything," Carlos said, glancing at Amara with a small, apologetic smile. "You didn't take anything. It was some other kid, white, red cap, ran off before she showed up." He jerked his head toward Karen, who was now silent, her face pale as Officer Daniels spoke to her. Officer Carter nodded. "We've got it on record." "Ma'am," he called to Karen, "you're going to need to explain why you made that call." Karen's mouth opened, then closed, her confidence crumbling. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, some calling out, "Apologize." Others shook their heads, whispering about, "Typical Karens." Amara's heart raced. She wanted an apology, but more than that, she wanted Karen to understand or feel the weight of what she'd done. But Karen's eyes darted away, avoiding Amara's gaze. Officer Daniels escorted her to the patrol car, saying something about a report for filing a false complaint. The sirens chirped once as the car pulled away, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. The crowd began to thin, but a few stayed, mostly kids Amara's age, some black, some not, their faces a mix of anger and solidarity. A girl with purple braids approached, her voice soft. "I'm sorry that happened to you." I've been there. She didn't elaborate, but Amara understood. The shared pain needed no explanation. Thanks, Amara said, managing a small smile. The girl nodded and walked off, but her words lingered, a reminder that Amara wasn't alone, even if it felt that way. Sophie's phone pinged. It's blowing up, she said, showing Amara the screen. The video she'd posted was already racking up views, comments flooding in, some outraged, others defensive, a few ugly with hate. Amara scanned them, her stomach twisting at the ones calling her a thug or worse. But there were others, two people demanding justice, calling Karen out, sharing their own stories. It was chaos, but it was real. Let's get out of here, Jamal said, glancing at the remaining onlookers. This place doesn't feel right anymore. Amara agreed. The park, once her escape, now felt like a stage where she'd been forced to perform her own defense. They grabbed their things and headed toward the park's exit, the weight of the day settling into Amara's bones. As they walked, her phone buzzed a call from her dad. She hesitated, then answered. Amara, where are you? Marcus's voice was tight with worry. Someone sent me a video. Are you okay? I'm fine, Dad, she said, though the words felt like a lie. I'm with Jamal and Sophie. We're leaving the park now. She didn't want to tell him over the phone, not the whole story, not yet. He'd want to fix it, to protect her, but this wasn't something he could fix with a speech or a policy. Stay with your friends. I'm sending a car to pick you up, he said. We'll talk when you get home. His voice softened, but Amara heard the anger beneath it, not at her, but at the world that kept putting his daughter in these moments. When they reached home, Amara's mom, Lena, was waiting at the door, her face a mix of fury and relief. She pulled Amara into a tight hug, whispering, I'm so sorry, baby. Marcus stood behind her, his jaw tight, watching the video on his phone. Amara could tell he was holding back, trying not to let his anger spill over. Tell me everything, he said, sitting her down. Amara recounted the story, her voice steady at first but breaking as she described Karen's accusation, the sirens, the crowd. Lena's hand gripped hers, and Marcus's eyes darkened with each word. This city, he muttered, shaking his head. I've spent years trying to change it, and still, he trailed off, then looked at Amara. I'm proud of you for standing your ground. But I hate that you had to. That night, Amara couldn't sleep. The video had gone viral, sparking debates across the city. News outlets picked it up, some framing it as a misunderstanding, others calling it what it was, racial profiling. By morning, Karen's name was public, her face plastered across social media. Amara learned her full name, Karen Whitaker, a real estate agent with a history of complaints about suspicious neighbors, always black or brown. The next day, Amara's dad called a press conference. Amara didn't want to, hated the spotlight, but he insisted. This isn't just about you, he said. It's about every kid who's been through this. So she stood beside him, Sophie and Jamal at her side, as he addressed the city. What happened to my daughter is not an isolated incident, Marcus said, his voice steady but fierce. It's a symptom of a deeper problem, a system that lets fear and bias turn a child into a threat. We can do better. We must do better. The crowd applauded, but Amara's eyes were on the faces, some nodding, others skeptical, a few angry. Change wasn't easy, and she knew it. After the conference, Karen issued a public apology, a stiff statement read on local news. I regret my actions and any distress caused, she said, her voice flat. Amara watched, feeling nothing. The words were empty, a performance to save face. But the city was listening now, and that mattered. Over the next week, Amara met with community leaders, kids like her who'd faced similar moments. They formed a youth council, pushing for bias training for police and public awareness campaigns. Amara found her voice growing stronger, her fear turning to purpose. She wasn't just the mayor's daughter anymore, she was Amara, the girl who stood tall. The park became a symbol, not of pain, but of resilience. Amara returned one sunny afternoon, frisbee in hand, with Jamal and Sophie. The wooden signpost still stood, its handwritten note faded but legible, Amara's truth, a fight for justice. She smiled, tossing the frisbee high. The park was hers again, and so was her story. What do you think? Where does justice begin in a moment like this? Share your thoughts on right, wrong, and the conflicts that divide us.